Well, as you can see, the old John Deere decided it wanted to identify as a Chevy.
Ha! Gay!
Broken tie rod and all. And in this video, I'm going to show you how to fix that. And while we're in there, we're going to go ahead and replace pretty much every steering component. The steering rack thing, gear, all that stuff. I ordered all of this off of Amazon. It was right around 50 bucks, so it's really not that bad of a price for everything. And unlike the factory tie rods, these new ones are adjustable. So I'm going to be doing this repair on a D100, obviously, but the procedure is going to be the same for a lot of other models. I'll put a list in the description of what models this is the same for, or very similar. So the first thing I'm going to do is remove the deck. That's optional, but being that some of the steering components I'm replacing are right up there, it just makes it a lot easier access, especially since I'm filming. And also I need to get in there and sharpen the blades and just inspect everything anyway. So this is a good time to do it. Now the deck's pretty easy to remove. There's just some pins we have to remove. We'll take that one off and send it flying across the shop. Now you're going to want to drop the deck all the way down too before you go too far into this. Pop that out. Go find our pin that we lost. And that pin's a little funky. What you'll do to get it off is you'll just lift up on this side and then slide it back that way out of the rod. Then we can come up under here and pull this one out. Then that drops out of the way. Now we can pull this one. And that'll probably fall out, but that's pretty simple. It just locks in with that little lug there into that hole. I'll worry about that later. And then we can pull this little guy out here and then pull back on it. And then we can reach up here and then work that spring out of there. Lay that off to the side and then come over here to the right side of the machine and pull that one out and that one. All right, that's off. Now there's weight on it, so that's what makes it a little bit difficult, but just kind of lift up on the deck and pull it off, or in my case just give it a yank since I've got one hand available. And then this guy here, send that flying across the shop too. And now we'll work the belt off of here, so just pull the deck forward a little bit. Slip that over that, down and around, and then come over to the other side. And do the same thing. And that's it, now we'll pull it out. Simple as that. Now you can flip it over, clean the bottom of the deck off, sharpen your blades, grease the pulleys, do whatever you got to do. All right, so the next thing we'll do is we'll get our tie rods taken off of the steering rack. This is 13 millimeter on the bottom, or real close to it, and 17 mil on the top. And then the same up front here. 12 might fit a little better on that, but these are junk, so I'll worry about that later. And obviously I have this lifted up on a jack, and there is a jack stand there for safety, of course. And then go ahead and repeat that process on the other side. Next we'll take the main gear off here, the pinion gear I guess you call it, and that is a 17 millimeter. And one thing you can do is you can take an impact and just gently pop it real quick to get that off of there, or you can do like I'm going to do because I don't feel like dragging the air hose out and stuff. Just get it up to one end of the steering system and just use that to hold it. As long as it isn't rusted too bad, it shouldn't be too hard to get off of there. Next we can take our steering rack off, and this is going to be a 15 millimeter right here. And up top here you can kind of see it. It's a 15 millimeter you'll need to put on that to back it up. You can kind of see what I got going on there. And then we'll just take it off from down here. All right, now we can take this one out, and that is a 15 millimeter down here and a 13 up top. Just go back up through here the same way. And just kind of feel for where it's at and get the wrench put on there. Now we can work on our pinion gear here a little bit more. And you can see I've still got the nut threaded on there a little bit. If yours is anything like mine, it is extremely tight on there. So what I'm going to do is just get a pry bar in there a little bit, put some pressure on it. And the reason the nut is there, so it gives me something to hammer on without completely screwing the threads up on the shaft. Then once it starts coming easy enough, you can safely, very gently tap on the end of this. Just don't booger the threads up. A puller would help too if you got one that'll fit up in there. And since we're replacing this, you can hammer on that to get it the rest of the way off. That actually worked pretty well. All right, now we can pull the steering column completely out, or the whole steering shaft, because the kit came with new bushings right there, and then that one right up in there. So simple enough, just grab a hold of it and pull it out most of the way. That's far enough. Now we can go ahead and pop those bushings out. Now to make getting that bushing out of there a little easier, I went ahead and pulled the battery. I'm not going to show you that because if you don't know how to do that, you're probably in way over your head on this job. Get that pulled out of there. You don't really have to pull the battery, but it makes it so it's a lot easier to see. So that's the end of the disassembly. So now we can start reassembling everything. So we'll grab our new bushings, and you can see they're kind of keyed. They fit down in there. Just like that, push it down in there. And to get that drove all the way in, I'm just gonna push the steering wheel down. Use that to drive it in. There we go. Now we can go ahead and grab our new steering rack and our two mounting bolts. And conveniently, they didn't send a new nut with that one, so we're gonna have to reuse the old one. So now we can take and make sure that your teeth are angled down. This bolt here that's got this collar on it will go up in here like that. And we'll just get that nut loosely threaded on there for the time being. And then we'll grab this one and our old nut, stick that up in here and up into the hole. Now we can get them snugged up. So now we'll come up top here and make sure our steering wheel is centered. And then come down here and make sure our steering rack is centered. That looks pretty good. And then we'll take our new drive gear, and you'll notice the splines and the splines on the shaft. Get our splines lined up. Get our nuts started. Now we can snug that up. Have somebody up top holding the steering wheel in place, and I'm going to go with that option because I don't feel like damaging brand new gears. So now we can go ahead and get our tie rods installed, and you're going to want to start with the one on the right side of the tractor as far as driving position. So when you're sitting in the driver's seat, you're going to want to work on the one on the right side first. That's at least if yours was like mine and it had this stupid little, I don't even know what this was, but it was on the knuckle on the left side of the tractor. Obviously it's a piece of crap and broke. So because of that, you're going to want to start on the right side of the tractor. And what you can do to start with is just do like I did, since mine was still in decent shape. Just kind of get them close to the same length, and then go ahead and install this, and then you can make adjustments on the left side, because you're not going to be able to match it up to the old tie rod if you had this, because this changed everything. So now to install the tie rods, we'll just make sure that our steering wheel is pretty well perfectly straight, and then go ahead and install the tie rod down here onto the knuckle. Go ahead and get that snugged up and finished. And then we'll get our tire sitting about where we want it, either perfectly straight or maybe a little bit of toe in. Make a slight adjustment here. That looks pretty good. And now we can come over here and just screw this in or out wherever you need to do in order to get this to line up into that hole. And I need to unscrew mine a little bit to lengthen it slightly. And I need to go a little bit more. And there we go. Now I'll go ahead and get the nut put on top of that, and then we can go to the other side. And to get the nut on top of that, you're gonna have to go through the front up here. When I took mine apart, you can see that it was bent down. It's not supposed to be that way. That's just because somebody beat the living crap out of this tractor. So when you're doing this, it's a good idea to have the tractor on the ground with the full weight of it down on the tires. It helps keep them from moving around. I just had it lifted up on the right side to give you a little better idea what I was doing. Go ahead and get the left side here. That one's pretty much perfectly straight, slightly in, and same with this one. I would call that good. So we'll go ahead and get this tie rod put on as well, up underneath on the steering rack. It's going to be the same as the other side. Now we can go ahead and tighten up the jam nut. And on mine here, I don't know about all brands, but this one here, 7/8 wrench fits it pretty nicely, which is probably like, I don't know, 20 millimeter. I don't have a metric wrench any bigger than 19, and 17 millimeter fits pretty nice here. So just go ahead and snug that up pretty good. And then go to the other side and do the same thing. And then go grab the beverage of your choice, because the job is done.